To another episode of Card Talk. It's a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings, the card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love drinking.
We definitely love drinking.
Woo!
Right. Heidi, 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 Heidi. Yeah. Hody, hody, Heidi, Heidi. Yeah. Ted, cheers.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. Welcome everybody to a very special edition of Card Talk, and I am very excited to be recording this show. How about you, Dave?
I have never been more excited to record a show of Card Talk than I am right now, because this card is amazing. But before we talk about this card, let me just remind everybody out there, we do have a blog. If you want to go read the blog and find out what Matt has to say about this card, you feel free to join us at cardtalk2018.com. You can see all sorts of neat stuff, back reviews. You can see some playthroughs. Matt is very loyal about putting out playthroughs all the time. And the other thing you can do is you can become a patron. Thank you to all the patrons that we have. I think, Ted, just so you know, cheers. We hit over the 50 patron mark.
Hey.
So, hey, that's something to drink too.
We definitely didn't use your patron money to buy beer.
And so, thank you to all the patrons. And if you want to become a patron of the show to help support support our podcast, feel free to join us at patreon.com/cardtalk2018. So thank you so much. And Ted, I almost wanted to play you out a little bit because we've had a couple of beverages.
There may have been a beverage or two, prior to recording, during recording, and it's all because we want to live the experience of the card that we're going to be talking about on today's episode. And I know that a lot of you probably haven't guessed it yet, and that's because
Ted, read the title of the show.
They haven't guessed it yet because it's a complete surprise.
It is.
They just click on card. It doesn't matter. All our episodes are not labeled about nothing. Nothing.
There's nothing.
Nothing about nothing. Okay.
Nothing about nothing.
And today's card,
I feel that, Ted. There's nothing about nothing.
Is Drinking Song.
It is Drinking Song.
I'm very pleased to be talking about this card on our show, David.
I am. And we even have the props to help us, right? Like, it's good stuff. And
yes.
Do you call them props when it's not? Like
when it's
real? Not actually, when it's real? Like, I guess, they're prop drinks.
Yeah, sure. Oh, here's the song.
Ted,
the song's
cheers.
on the card.
Hey, cheers! Hey!
Ho, 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 to the bottle I go, to heal my heart and drown my woe. It's a clip from the song. It's on the card. It's right on the card. Look no further than the card, David.
I am looking no further than the card. So for everybody out there who wants to know about the card, it's a lore event. It's a song, and it's a zero cost. It's a zero cost thinger, and so it has an action that says count the number of cards in your hand, and shuffle your hand into your deck, and then draw an equal number of cards. Draw one additional card if you control a unique Hobbit character.
Pow!
And here they come to get you, Ted.
Ah!
How dare you draw that extra card?
No!
So, Ted, while you're avoiding the police, I will say that the Drinking Song card does not count as one of the cards in your hand. So, just like as a matter of rules and playing, you always put the card that you're playing down, and that's not in your hand. And so it's talking about all the cards that aren't, that copy of Drinking Song.
Right. So if you have 8 cards in your hand, you play Drinking Song, you're going to be drawing 7 cards,
Right.
unless you have the unique Hobbit character, which then you get to draw the extra one.
Which
so then
replaces
that's where that
Drinking Song, which is great. Like, it's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the cool thing is about this card is it is a unique Hobbit character. So if you have a hero, if you have a Hobbit hero, awesome, because that means you always get to play this card and get the extra card no matter what. Doesn't matter. You just have to have Lore Sphere and, and any Hobbit hero, right? It could be Samwise or Frodo, whoever. Totally awesome in the campaigns.
Tom Cotton. Spirit Pippin gives you a card for Drinking Song. See, exactly. There are positives for Spirit Pippin.
Yeah, but it's a character, so you could have a unique ally. You could have ally Pippin, or ally Sam
Gamgee. See, you and I, we think about it.
Yeah.
We think of the same way. Yeah. See how this works? It's like, we got this. It's like we've been doing a podcast for a while. Cheers.
Hey. And even in just in lore, you have
Who's Justin Lore?
Well, Justin Lore is he
a patron?
Hey,
Justin Lore, thank you for being a patron.
Lore, thank you so much. And he's at the Ready Teddy level, too. He calls me Ready Teddy all the time.
He texts you?
He texts me Ready Teddy, and guess what?
You don't even get mad about it.
I don't even get mad about it.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah. So
that's a great subtle plug for a patron level.
Yeah, if you want to climb your way up, it's super easy. You just do it with money.
And the funny thing is you don't have to be the Ready Letty Teddy level for very long. You just need to do it for a month, and then you don't get mad. So,
it's a lifetime. It's like a lifetime subscription
for to the Ready Teddy grumpy at anybody.
And I'll never get grumps.
Right? No grumps.
It's in the thing. It's in the thing.
It's in the thing.
It's in the thing.
Right.
What are we talking about?
Yeah, Drinking Song. Hey, Drinking Song. Yeah.
Oh man, I really want to have a. Oh man, we got to have a.
It's a good thing we're not doing a Lembus episode, right?
I know. Right?
It's like we would be eating
all right.
the whole time.
We had a cram episode.
We did. That was in honor of Grant having a bad tooth. Remember, Grant had a bad tooth, and so we were like, "Hey,
let's do a food."
You know what we should do? Actually, we should congratulate Grant on becoming a grandfather. We should be like, "Hey, Grant! Hey, cheers, buddy! Yes, thank you.
Right. Have a drink and a smoke. So there we go.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're not doing smoke and think too. That would be a whole lot of nothing episode. There we are. We're doing that thing.
Finest weed from the South Farley.
Yeah. Leaf, not weed.
Leaf. That's right. This is finest leaf.
But on a serious note, like I will say that I feel like Drinking Song is one of those card draw effects. Let's not mince words about it. Card draw is probably one of the best effects you can have in your deck. Besides like an initial defender, right? So Ted, like I have dranken the Bannock Kool-Aid, and I have said that, like you really want a defender to start your game. Like,
oh man,
you can
defense wins games.
It does, right? Like it's not sexy, but it definitely wins. Like it definitely helps. But like the best thing that you can have in your deck, besides things that help defending, is probably card draw to get you to the things that you need that are not card draw or defending, right?
Get to those things that are sexy.
Get to those things that can help you quest and help you kill things and all those things that people love to play. And that's where Drinking Song really comes into play. Like, if you are one of those people, like when I build a deck and I usually include like typically 2 of the unique characters that I have. So like if I have Treebeard, it'll usually be 2 of, maybe 3 sometimes, but usually 2, 2 of Build a Pony, maybe 3 of sometimes, but usually 2 of Faramir, 2, like all those allies that you want to include that are unique. And a drinking song can turn those allies into something that is phenomenal, right? Because you have all these uniques in your hand, and sometimes you don't want to discard them to protect our Vlorian or to whatever, to get something. And so the drinking song can turn 8 cards that you're not using into a different set of 8 cards that are phenomenal. And by the way, that's one of the most fun parts of the game. It may not be like phenomenal, but it's fun because you get to discard your hand, and then you're like, okay, let's hope that I draw the thing that I need right now. And you draw those things you need, and
that's a great point. So to think about it, let's say you have 3 cards in your hand, and you're like, okay, I'm trying to get, you got a couple cards in your deck that you're kind of fishing for, right? You draw that drinking song. You draw that drinking song, and you didn't actually just draw 1 new card. You actually drew 3 new cards. Right? Because you're going to trade in those 3 cards in your hand for different cards. And if you have that unique Hobbit, you drew 4 new cards by putting that 1 card in your hand. It can change the game. It can just be like, wow, I have an entirely different hand of cards now, and it just opens up possibilities if your hand has become sort of stagnant, which happens. You might have
so often.
You might have unique allies. You might have duplicates of unique cards, or you have combo pieces, and you have like half the piece and not the other, right. Like a sneak attack and no Gandalf. And this is a way.
Or sometimes you just have like 4 cost cards, and you need 1 cost card. Like it's whatever,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
hey!
I will mention the one. So I've played this card in a bunch of different decks. If my deck is playing lore, I tend to run over 50 cards a lot of the time, and I tend to include 3 copies of Daeron's Runes, 3 copies of Drinking Songs. There are plenty of decks where I run both, because they're just ways to just cycle through your deck and draw more cards. I will say the one downside to this card is that is if you have to sneeze, the card doesn't stop you from sneezing. It
doesn't stop you from sneezing. Right?
At
you
all,
have to draw it.
You have to draw it.
You have to draw it, and then there's no guarantee that you're not still going to sneeze.
It's still going to happen.
Hey!
The one downside is let's say you have like 3, 4, 5 cards in your hand, and you might have 1 card you want to keep. It might prevent you from shuffling in your entire hand, right? Let's say you have one situational card you're hanging on to, like Test of Will, right? Cancel it, and you're like, I'm hanging on to this Test of Will. I'm playing an encounter that's got really nasty treachery, so I'm playing Spirit to play Test of Will, and the rest of your hand is just not helping you. You might kind of be like, do I risk not redrawing it to fill my hand with new cards? So you can arrive at that crossroads.
Sure.
I found myself drawing it and not being like, okay, I'm glad I have it in my hand, so I can draw a new hand it's an action, right? You can do that anytime you want to. You can be in the middle of combat, and you're like, okay, we got this extra enemy. Let's say you're playing lore and tactics. You're like, I need a feint would help. I need to stop an attack. I need to feigned voices because you're playing Sylvans. Well, let's see if I can draw one. You'll just shuffle in your hand, draw however many cards, and maybe you'll get one.
Right.
You could draw into all these. You could draw into other actions. You could draw
You
into
draw into like a dwarven tomb that may pull something back, or a
yeah.
will o' the west.
You
Like there's
know,
a million things that you can.
there's allies you can play from your hand during the combat phase, like Tactics Elfhelm,
Right.
Ranger Cartlet. There's so much stuff, and if you have those things in your deck, you could just be trying to go fish those out at the time you need it. So it's like
Right.
blows your mind.
Hey! Hey! Here's to blowing your mind.
So it's and it's fun. Drawing cards is fun, and lets you just draw a whole bunch of cards.
I know. I will tell you that I've played this card since it came out in Mount Gundabad. That whole cycle was really good for the types of decks that I like to play. And that drinking song card made it into so many decks. It was just, and every time I play it, even now, 3 years after Mount Gundabad was released, I still get like a little like excitement building in my in my gut when I'm like, okay, I'm going to discard all of these cards and I'm going to draw another. It's still fun. It's still like it's gamey, and I like that. I mean, let's. I guess it's important for us as pillar. I don't know if we're pillars of the community, but as content creators in the community to talk a little bit about this, is that card draw in lore is abundant, so there's a lot of options.
Yep.
And so does drinking song fit into every lore deck? Let me just tell you. So one day I was talking about it on the Facebook group. If anybody is not part of the Facebook group, please, if you're listening to this, go to LOTR LCG players, and it's there. There's over 5,000 members, and people are talking about it every day. It's a very active community, and it's great. I said, I'm building a lore deck. What card draw do you include? Like, do you choose Drinking Song or Daron's Runes? And people were like, include both, because of just the power of both of Daron's Runes and Drinking Song. Like, they're both very, very good. Although I will say that Drinking Song gives me, and I don't mean this in a weird way, so don't take it that way, but like Drinking Song gives me like much more of the gameplay jitters than Daron's Runes, because I don't have to do as much with Daron's Runes. But imagine this. So in the same sphere, you have something like Peace and Thought.
Yep.
You draw 5 cards. If those 5 cards are duds, or 4 are duds, or 3 are duds, and then you can play Drinking Song at some point. Now you're drawing You're drawing, so let me back up for a second. So Peace and Thought allows you to draw 5 cards. Yes, you have to exhaust a couple of heroes. Let's say you pay for that. Now you draw 5 cards, and you look at those 5 cards, and you're like, wow, 4 of these are junk. Now you can play Drinking Song for 0 at some point, like you said, in any phase. You could do it in the quest phase. Let's say you wanted something to help you out in the quest phase, Sneak Attack Gandalf, whatever. Now you're going to draw 5 more cards than you would have if you hadn't had Peace and Thought, or if you haven't had, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could, so to replace those 5 cards, it gives you that even bigger gamey sort of feeling. That's, I don't know. So there's a lot of card draw upon card draw combos that you could do here, right? You could draw a whole bunch of cards, play Drinking Song, replace those cards if you don't like them, to draw an equal number of cards. So it's slightly different than just card draw. It's card replacement, right? And that's, maybe for, when you're new into the game, it doesn't matter, but when you're deep into the game,
sure,
card replacement versus card draw may be more important, if that makes sense. Then I think that's what I was getting to about my whole Peace and Thought thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a, it's it is sort of, I get what you're saying about card replacement because you're not actually netting new cards, even if you have the Hobbit kicker bonus or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, it still circulates cards in your deck, and it can change your board state by changing the cards in your hand. And is it possible you end up with a worse hand? Maybe, but if you're already not playing those cards,
Right.
yeah, you're not playing them.
Right, and
So
this is what I would suggest to people who have not played Drinking Song. And I don't know who's not played Drinking Song out there, but you know, it is exactly what Ted just said, is that, if you're already not playing those cards, then Drinking Song is a positive. Like, that's why you put Drinking Song in a deck. Is because you're already not playing those cards, and so you might as well take a chance on, drawing even two new cards that you could actually play in whatever phase you want to play them in.
yeah, exactly. So it's it's a really versatile card. Um, I wouldn't say, I tend to put Dayron's Runes. That's probably what I would compare this to the most, because it's a similar effect of card replacement. Drawing you cards, but not necessarily netting you a card.
Right.
Um, I like I said, I tend to run one or the other. I certainly run this one if I have a unique Hobbit hero, for sure, because then I always get that extra card. And there are a lot of decks where I happen to run both. Do you put this in every single lore deck? Do you
Mm,
auto include it?
I don't know. No, I mean, if I'm saying I don't know, that means no. But because there are so many options for card draw in a lore deck, right? Like if I'm playing Peace and Thought in a lore deck, I don't know if I need to play Drinking Song, right? Like I know that I just talked about how it works back to back, and part of what we're doing right now is going through the whole theatrical campaign, that whole deck. Drinking Song is not in my theatrical campaign Bond of Saga Ship deck. It's not. And so because I have two copies of Peace and Thought and I have two copies of Frodo's Intuition, which, if I draw all of those, I'm netting 20 cards plus two copies of Gandalf, which is another 6 cards, so that's 26 cards plus Elrond, that's 28 cards. So like I have the card draw, and so sometimes the card replacement is not a thing. But I think that I just heard this on the most recent edition of Cardboard of the Rings, and I agree with it, and I have been trying to say this, but I think that people undervalue card cycling, whether it's draw
Mm-hmm.
or card replacement in this card. Like I think people undervalue how much is important to just see different cards in your hand, right? And so, do I include Drinking Song all the time? No. But am I including card draw more and more and more and more in all my decks? Yes. So is Drinking Song one of those cadre of, one of the cards in that cadre of cards? Yes. But is it in every lore deck? No.
No.
Should it be? Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, like it's really good,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I would say that it's challenging Daron's runes for its its
Ability to
utility.
cycle and draw.
Yeah,
Utility.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Its
Utility's a good
utility, but
better.
Daron's runes is yes, it's a card replacement, but it's a card draw, right? Here
Mm-hmm.
you actually shuffle. It's not statistically likely, but it's possible that you shuffle 7 cards in your deck, shuffle up your deck, and draw the same 7 cards, right? With Daron's runes, you're drawing 2 new cards that you haven't seen before without shuffling your deck back. And so it's different mechanically, but it's still the same sort of thing. So
Yep.
I don't know. So
Yeah, very similar. They do work well. Like I said, you can run them. You can run them both, and just kind of see what happens. But it's overall, it's I think it's a strong card, and I think we should talk about this card's art.
Let's talk about the art. I love the art. I love it. I
How
love
can
these
can you
photorealistic
not?
art.
It does have that photorealism quality to it. I couldn't think of the term until you said it just now, so
Yeah.
thank you.
I love the photorealism, although I wouldn't, and I like this, that like, I can't identify the two hobbits
Absolutely not.
that are there by name. It could be Bob and Nob. It could be, Frodo and Sam. It could be Pippin and Merry, which I would guess are likely who it is because
Mhm.
they went to the Green Dragon. Like, but the point is that I can't readily identify the two hobbits, which makes it more general utilitarian art. Right? Like, it makes me feel like, oh, I could play this on any Hobbit deck and not just a deck where, Mary is my hero or something. Not that that's a criteria, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, there are some things I forgot to mention about this,
Go ahead.
aside from all the nonsense that we were talking about.
Hey,
Hey,
nonsense! Hey!
It has the song trait. It has the song trait on it in bold. So a song, I want to say a song deck is kind of a thing. It does have two specific interactions that I want to mention. It does combo with Love of Tales, which is also a lore card. It's a lore attachment for 0 that says limit 1 per hero. After a song card is played, you exhaust Love of Tales with the errata to add a resource to attach hero's resource pool. So you can even get an added resource out of this card when you play it.
So you get an extra card and an extra resource.
Like that, yeah. So if you're playing, I'd say you want to run. You want to run probably other songs besides just this to make Love of Tales worth the deck space. There are other songs there's neutral ones, there's ones in spirit, there's other ones in lore like Road Goes Ever On, like Tom Bobadilio. There's a bunch of different songs in all the spheres, which is pretty cool. So you can easily include 6-9 songs in your deck and then Love of Tales. And the other kind of neat thing is Rivendell Minstrel. I want to mention Rivendell Minstrel is a very early card. It came out in Hunt for Gollum, and it's a 3-cost lore ally that says response. It's a Noldor. It's got 2 willpower and 1 hit point, but the response is after you play Rivendell Minstrel from your hand, you search your deck for 1 song card and add it to your hand. And you can go get a drinking song.
Is the Rivendell Minstrel a Sylvan?
It's a Noldor.
It's a Noldor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you can
Rivendell. Right.
Yeah, you can potentially reduce its cost with to the sea.
Right.
But it's kind of cool to go again. There's a couple songs you might be running in your deck that are key to your deck. You might be like trying to run Song of Healing for healing, or one of the neutral songs like Song of Travel, so you can get a sphere bleed. But if you have songs in your deck and you're also like, okay, I'm going to include Drinking Song and I'm going to include Love of Tales and I'm going to include, Days Rising is a great song to go get with Rivendell Minstrel because that gets you resources.
Right.
It's kind of cool if you have those other pieces in play. Like you can just go get a Drinking Song, right? Like it can kind of refresh in your hands. That's kind of cool, and it's in Sphere. So it's kind of it's a really worthwhile card to go get.
So let me put it to you this way, Ted. Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
So if you're going to put
incoming,
right? Well, let's say this: like somebody they just get Mount Gundabad or that hero whatever it is, the cards that go with this, and they just get Drinking Song, but they have a deck that already has Rivendell Minstrel or the other, what's the song that gives you or what's the attachment that gives you the extra
Love of
resource? Love of
Tales.
Tales, right? So, like, do you auto include? Do you just take 3 copies of Drinking Song and then put it into that deck?
Pretty much. Pretty
I guess
much.
that's what I'm trying to
There are
get.
there are some people who are the 50 card purists, as we call them. Like keep a tight deck. If you want to do that, if you want to make a 50 card deck and really trim it down, and you include 3 copies of this of Drinking Song and 3 copies of Dayron's Ruins, you're really narrowing your deck pool down to these cycle cards. You're almost, you're almost taking 6 cards out of your deck in a way and exposing yourself to more cards. But going over too, like I'm just saying, don't be afraid of a big deck. All right. Don't be afraid. There are some big deck enthusiasts, one of which is one of our patrons, Justin. He loves to play large size decks, and what's really interesting is the contract too.
Perilous Voyage.
Perilous Voyage gives you a minimum of 100. And I'm so glad that contract exists, because not only is it fun, it also opened up, like, don't be afraid to play this a larger than 50 card deck. Like, it just kind of opened up that concept to people. And certainly, yeah, run 3 copies of this in your Perilous Voyage deck. You get a Mondo deck full of like so many different choices and allies and cards. So whether you're a 50 card purist or you're like, don't be afraid to bleed over. Run 53, 56, 60 cards, especially if this card's in your deck. And if you have an existing deck with those other cards that you mentioned, like Rivendell Minstrel, absolutely throw this card in. If it puts you over, if you already at 50, throw these in. Like, it'll very likely help you.
Right.
Or it'll hurt you. You're like, Card Talk is dumb. They recorded this stupid drunk episode, and I'm never going to play this card again.
Hey, drunk! Hey! Drinking Song!
So, yeah, they're fun times.
Yeah. So should we ring this card, Ted?
We should mug this card.
We should mug this card. Well,
yeah.
So if anybody doesn't know or is new to the show or maybe has forgotten, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary scale where we mug a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 10 mugs is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it came, and 1 mug is the card that
you spilled your. Wait, hold on. 10 is 10 the mugs. Card. 10 mugs is you spilled your beer on it, and you're like, I gotta throw this card away, and you're not mad about it. Right. And 1 card is like, I won't drain this card for all the beer in the world.
I'm gonna hang this card up so that it avoids the swag,
the spillage.
The spillage. Right. In the end, we're not changing our ranking system. We're just changing the units of the ranking system. Exactly. So I'll go first. I went first. I had Ted go first on the last episode. So here's the thing: like, how do you pick Drinking Song as a card that inspires deck building? And that's how I always rank cards. Like, how much inspiration do I get from, like, when I did Celeborn, like, Celeborn inspires a whole bevy of Sylvan decks.
Sure.
That's it, right? Yep. Like, but Drinking Song does not inspire deck building. What it does is it holds together all the decks that you build, right? So you have to change the criteria, or I have to change the criteria for which I am, for these sorts of events and attachments that don't really inspire deck building around. But I mean, I just have to say that Drinking Song on its raw, I don't want to even say power, on its raw utilitarianness, on its just usefulness, like, this song is great. It's 0 cost, and you get to replace all the cards in your deck, or all the cards in your hand. Like, that is great. And you don't have to do it now. You can do it whenever you choose. So, I mean, that's phenomenal. So, I, I think I have to give this card a 2 because it's just so good in terms of what it does. Despite it not being an inspiration for, I'm not going to build my drinking song deck, right? Like, I guess that's what I'm getting at. So, Ted, what do you think?
I give this card 2 mugs up.
2 mugs up.
2 mugs up. I also give it a 2 because it's got strong utility, and that's right, 2 mugs up. It's got strong utility. It's really easy to play, to add into your deck, and it enhances other decks. And there are a few decks that I build that are focused around 1 or 2 key pieces. Like, oh, I really need this attachment, or I really need this ally. And when I build those types of decks, I put as much card draw and cycle into the deck as I can. I'm running a hero that draws cards like Galadriel or Pippin or Bilbo, and then I'm playing every single card draw effect that I can get. And Dayron's Ruins and Drinking Song are just always going to go in those types of decks.
So 2 mugs.
2 mugs. Way up.
2 mugs way up.
This episode's really fun for the people
right.
watching on YouTube as opposed to just listening.
I know the YouTubers, you guys get to see exactly what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So if there's no better reason to become a subscriber on YouTube than seeing what happens here, then I don't know what is. So, anybody, thank you so much for being.
Quick disclaimer: drink responsibly.
Yeah. Ted and I were only
those are only props.
Yeah.
So,
we were just having a lot of fun. So
yeah,
make sure you're 21 before you drink in the United States and whatever your legal drinking age is anywhere around the world. And for everybody else that is not drinkers, I hope that you enjoyed the episode despite us having a couple of sips of our favorite beverage. Everybody, have a great day, and we'll see you next week.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube. And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.